What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast, the number one real estate investing podcast in the country and the whole wide world. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Sitting next to me is Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Ian hit me up a few minutes ago and said, "Hey, man, you want to hop on a podcast? I got a lot of shit I need to brain dump." And I was like, "Yes, absolutely. Let's do it." We didn't plan anything. We actually didn't have a guest lined up for today anyways. So here we are. We're live. Let's go.
We are live. We are live. It is a beautiful day out. We're inside. We're podcasting. I've had a lot of thoughts going through my head. And a lot of the times the way this podcast was even started was through, Jason and I talk pretty regularly. And, that's kind of how this podcast started of like, we should have these conversations online in front of other people so people know where we're coming from on a lot of stuff. And, right now with like the ever-changing market, people coming out of COVID, everyone's used to working from home. I'm noticing a lot of people, and of course my signal decides that it doesn't want to work, is that people are like very into lifestyle business right now. It's like a super sexy topic. Jason has no clue what I'm about mind dump. So it's all going to come out and we're going to get Jason's opinion at the end of this. But I was having a conversation earlier today with another one of our friends. And we were talking about lifestyle business. It's the sexy topic. It's what everyone wants to talk about. They want the private jets and they want the boats and they want the vacation houses. But on the other side of that, they don't, they want big business and they want to do all these things. Maybe it's not a good comparison, but what we were really talking about, I guess, more is like those that like, I think there's a missing message inside the lifestyle business. And the lifestyle business is be respectful of your core values while going and achieving your goals, right? There's a group out there that promotes being very family forward, and that's great and all, but it's like your business gets pushed to the side. And I think the message that's missed there is your business is a part of your life and your family and everything else you do. And then in exchange for that, you can do everything with your family as you should, but don't let your core values get violated while you're doing your business or vice versa. And where that rub is where you need to fix things. You can go out and kill in business and still have a lifestyle business at the same time. Too many people go lifestyle and let their business just fall apart, or they go all business and let their family fall apart. You need to find that happy medium between the two of them.
Well, first off, you got to love what you do and enjoy what you do. And it's loving the process. There's lots of different components of owning a business, between, marketing and the financial side and working with people and potentially improving houses and all that stuff. Right. So you got to find what side of that business is right for you first. But I mean, I agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying, because on one side, you don't want to just be like, hey, I'm a workaholic and I have no time, with doing anything I want to do or with my family, which is outrageous. And most of the time, those people are spending time and very inefficient and ineffective of what they're doing to begin with, right? Like you should be able to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish during a normal work day or during a reasonable amount of time throughout the week. But on the other side, there's a lot of folks that, start making some money, and real estate's a good example of this because you can make some money pretty quick. You can get some cash flowing assets, and they're like, hey, not that they're gone, but it's like, hey, I'm going to go concentrate on something else. Well, guess what? If you stop focusing on your business, like it's going to fall by the wayside. It's going to collapse, especially in an environment, in a market that we're in right now, where there's a lot of uncertainty, rising interest rates. Is the market going to go down? Is the market going to go up? Too many folks, go in, make a good amount of money. I mean, making money isn't the hardest thing in the world, but doing it consistently and keeping that and preserving that, that's hard. I mean, listen, I'm in a position where you could be like, hey, listen, I, made a good amount of money. Cool. I'm going to go take some time off. I'm going to go do whatever. But then in a few years from now, it might not potentially just be, recirculating over and over and over and over. And that's what the goal is. The whole thing with me related to financial freedom is like, you can't stop the money coming in no matter what, even if you want to, over and over and over and over. And I feel like a lot of people, and that's kind of the end goal. And everyone's like, well, why do you have such lofty goals? It's like, well, it's not necessarily a lofty goal. It's like, I want to set this up so like after everything's in place, it's always going to be in place. You know, it doesn't matter what happens in the stock market. It doesn't matter what happens in the real estate environment. And I think a lot of, in particular, people, and this isn't obviously targeted towards anybody whatsoever, but I think a lot of people that fit into the moldy and that you're describing is they go and they make a decent amount of money, and then they kind of like, okay, cool, I'm going to go create the, you know, part of my lifestyle business is now I'm going to go travel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Sure. Next thing you know, it's like you're not living off your interest that comes in every month. You're living off your fucking principal. that's decreasing. Right. Your net worth's decreasing in order to live that lifestyle. When if you just put a little bit more heavy lifting and things in place with your business right now, like that, you could be living off interest, right? You could be living off proceeds and cash flow, and that's where the goal is.
And the people that say, well, I'm making good money. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to go it's like I concentrated on business, and it's like, all right, let me put this bucket down and go concentrate on family. Right. And then it's like, well, you've only made enough. You said make a good bit of money. And I would use the word enough, because that's the word that gets transpired to break people of a mold. Right. And it's like, okay, well, if I make $5,000 at work, all I got to do is get to $5,000 a month cash flow, and I'm set and I'm good. And it's like, you worked really, really, really freaking hard to get to that point to even make $5,000 a month. And that first $5,000, and Jason said it's easy to make money, right? But that first $5,000 is hard as fuck. Like straight up, it is hard to make that first round of money. Pay yourself, be confident in what you're doing. But then it's like, woohoo, I made it. And they just like toss it up. They're like, I'm going to go live my best life. It's like, yo, dude, you only made $5,000 or 10 grand or whatever it is. To me, you know, I beat this point to death, and you've already know what I'm going to say. It is a disservice to your family to not make the most possible money you absolutely can without violating your core values to what you and your family are. And that might be $20,000 a week. It might be $5,000 a week. It might be $1,000 a week. In the end, you need to make the most money you possibly can for your family, because right now we're experiencing hyperinflation. We're experiencing changing markets. We're experiencing no inventory in the marketplace. Everybody's like, oh yeah, the multifamily, the storage market, single family, those deals are always going to be there. That shit dried up overnight. Like literally, it changed in a 3-week time period. Rates went from 3% to 6.5%, like that. Now there's some other factors that are keeping it afloat, but that shit changed overnight. What if you would have just worked 10 times harder during that time frame when the inventory was available? You would be in such a better spot today than you are trying to chase the current market.
Well, and also and a lot of people be like, well, you know, you work too hard. You don't need all that. You don't.
Why do you need to be that rich? That's my favorite one. Why do you need that much money? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, well, first off, everyone has their own individual goals, but like a lot of people in that position, like they haven't thought through the second half of their life, or more than the second half of their life. You know, shit changes. It doesn't, and you could set yourself up like right now. What kills me is a lot of folks that are younger, right? Like in their 20s, 30s, 40s, where, you know, they've done a good job. They've made money at kudos and done a good job. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, hey, either they got burned out, or they're like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to figure it out, or they're just chasing something else. Like the grass ain't greener on the other side. And I feel like if you put in a decade of work, maybe a little bit longer, whatever, and it's like, hey, you already created a business, like a legit business, continue to grow that, and you only got a little bit longer, and then potentially you could autopilot that thing for freaking ever. Right. Like you don't necessarily, like I'm not stating don't live your best life, but you can do it combined, right? Like you don't necessarily, it's not all or nothing, right? It's not all or nothing.
Yeah. And I think most people don't know their core values. Most people don't know their goals in life. Most people can't see 6 months into the future, let alone a day.
That's what it is. They can't see far in the future. But guess what? If they see far in the future, you're making a mistake.
Well, and I'll tell you, so Jason got me to read, you know, obviously we like golf, right? I wanted to golf 30 times this year. I think I've golfed 3. That's right, Farling. But Jason,
let's freaking go. We still got time. I'm in.
I know. I got to stop violating my own core values. But anyway, Jason got me to read this book. It's called The Next Best Golf Shot. and just take the
Your
golf
next shot. Your
position
next
out.
shot is your best shot.
Your next shot's your best shot by some guy named Dr. Rotella, I think it is.
Bob
Rob Rotella. Either way, it was a very good book. And the core principle to me was, yeah, like you're working towards your next shot. And like a lot of people are always like, oh, yeah, well, I just got to get to this and I can get to my next shot. But in the end, it's really about playing a nice game all the way through and being consistent. And sometimes you're going to get derailed and you're going to be off your game and you're going to say, F this, I want to sell everything. But in the end, you got to remember that next shot is not your next goal. That next shot, you have a chance to correct what you screwed up prior. And your goal is to play a nice, consistent, level-headed game. Do the same thing in business. Do the same thing in your life. Do the same thing with working out. Right now, I'm going through a thing where I'm not really hitting the gym too hard, right? And like Dan, same thing we were talking about the other day. I'm like, yo, dude, what's up? He's like, man, I need to pick a meet because I need something to work towards, right? Like we all need goals. And I just see too much of it going on right now. And it's starting to really concern me. And that's why I felt like the need to bring this all up. That's my friend, though.
Well, I'm glad. I didn't know you read that book. I'm glad you did, and you got through it pretty quick because we just talked about it recently. I mean, yeah. I like a lot of his stuff because obviously it's geared towards golf, but there's so many life lessons in all of his stuff, and that's a good takeaway. And another like pet peeve that I have, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and that's fine. This is just my opinion, but like, if you're on the younger side of things and you have younger kids and you have things like that, like, why not put in the time now to work? And again, this is the happy medium. This isn't like go live at your office and not see your kids. Like you can do both, right? Like typically I would guess they probably go to school or they're in some program during the day. Yeah. So like you don't need to see them 24/7 and they don't want to see you 24/7. Right. So like during those times, that could be a few hours a day. It could be 8 hours a day, whatever it is. Like go grind, go do the work. Like to me, it's a responsible thing to be doing anyways, because like show them that like, hey, you're a hard worker and that you're doing things. And that's not to state that like, you're not making an example if like you're traveling and you're showing them other life lessons and things like that. Like you can still do that. But like, I feel like you're creating a role model. You're being a good role model by showing them and doing that stuff and working hard and, teaching them your business if that's something that, you want to do and having them involved in that. But like, to me, it's like, it's still an X amount of years until my kids are going to be graduating high school anyways and living in my house. So like, what else am I going to do? Like, I'm going to continue to grind. I'm going to continue to work and I'm going to continue to grow. And if things change in the future, maybe I won't, but like, what else am I going to do? Like, I enjoy doing this stuff and I'm going to continue to do so.
Yeah. And you were talking about the role model piece. The gentleman I was talking to earlier today, who's been a guest on our show several times, I was talking to him. He's like, dude, I got to coach. I got to do something. I just need, because he's been looking at buying businesses because that's like a super sexy topic right now. And I said, dude, John, what's up? Like, why are you looking at all this stuff? He's like, well, because when someone asked my kid at school what my dad does all day, he said he just kind of sits around the house.
Perfect. Because I didn't know that story.
Like, yeah, but then on the other side, he's like, am I setting the right example for my kids? Right? Like, what should I be doing? How should I be setting a better example? Can I do more? Like, how can I be more motivated and invigorated to do stuff on a daily basis? And I think it's all it all comes together. It all coincides. And I do believe that if you have success, you should show your kids how you've made the success, not force it upon them, but what it takes. And all this ties back to, again, your core values. If you say, you know what, I want to work 6 days a week. I only want to see my families on Sunday. My family's okay with that. They know that I'm grinding this out for the next 5 years and I'm going to work my ass off 6 days a week and my family's okay with that, then fine, go do it. But on the same side of that, and it allows you to produce millions of dollars, great. But in the same sense, if your family's like, no, we want you here every day and you're okay with only making $1,000 a week, and that's what you want to do, and you only want to work 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, but you can make that $1,000 in that 1 hour, and that's what it takes, and that's what your family and you believe in, then go do it. Just don't violate what you got going on. Be a role model. Live your
I don't think that's what a lot of people want, though. I think you nailed it, and I never really put this together, but I think you nailed you nailed it on the head related to like, they can't think far enough into the future that it's like,
Yep.
hey, listen, like, hey, you just sold a business or you just flipped a house or you just, made $1 million, right? Well, guess what? $1 million doesn't last that long if you don't have cash flow behind that to prop that up. If you have an investment vehicle, let's say you have $1 million liquid and you only want whatever, $5, 6, 7, 8, $9,000 a month forever, right? And you have $1 million and you put that into an asset, typically a real estate asset that spits that money out regularly, and you've hit your capacity where you want to hit in life. And it's like, hey,
Yep.
I've got my $6,000 in cash flow after taxes, whatever it is, and you're happy with that forever. Fine. That's an okay thing. But like, you can't just take sums of money or something, flip a house, and then all of a sudden like completely change your lifestyle that won't be able to support it, because $1 million isn't all that much money to begin with. So like, the people that I respect the most are the ones that are just only spend their cash flow. They're still like, I've always thought about things, and it doesn't equal thirds, but this is how I've thought for years. So for instance, you make $10,000 a month, call it, right? From your hard work, right? From your hard work, you make $10,000 a month. Well, guess what? You're allowed to spend $3,000. You have to invest $3,000, and let's say taxes are the other $3,000, right? So like, you're paying tax. So you think about everything in thirds, and as you grow, that's what you're allowed to spend. When you make $10,000, you are only allowed to spend $3,000 a month. That's it, because the other third has to be invested. The other third is going to taxes. So if you want, to spend $6,000 a month, you got to make, 20,000, 20,000 a month. That's just what it is. And I've always kind of tried to live off that, and it's hard to obviously do that, especially at the beginning to do that.
Yeah.
But Ian asked me a question related to a buddy of mine. He knows a little bit about his financial backing, and he does pretty well. And he makes a good amount of money, and he makes a lot of cash monthly. And he was like, but like, he's just on preservation stage of life. Like, he's got a good amount of investable money. It all spits out, kind of a full-time investor. And it's like, well, does he really need all that much money? And he's like, no, he's not spending all that much money every month, but he's following the formula. He's paying taxes on a third of it. He's saving a third of it, and he's spending a third of it. Right. And that's just how it is. It continues to grow. And if you follow that formula, like, it's not all that hard, after you kind of have the cycle in place, and it keeps you disciplined. I like it because it keeps you disciplined. It's like, no, you can't buy that because it's out of the wrong bucket. Like, there's a lot of folks that I know that have made a good amount of money in the past, and they have it, but like, they're not following these key principles. And it's just like Nelson Nash's philosophy with infinite banking. And like, when you take a loan out from a whole life insurance policy, you don't technically need to pay it back, but eventually that'll nip you in the butt if you're not paying it back with interest, because eventually that money runs out and it's not there. So just follow that formula, and however formula it could be an 80-20 formula, right? If you're like Ian and don't have to pay a lot of taxes because you own a lot of real estate, in that particular case, he sets his formula up different, but follow that formula, and don't just like, the last thing you want to do is make $50,000 on a flip, and you're just like, oh, this is an extra $50,000. I wasn't planning on having this anyways, and go spend it. So to me, like, it's real simple. It's, oh, this is an extra $50,000 I can invest that I didn't have before, and guess what? That extra $50,000 spits out an extra $500 a month.
Yep.
And that, like, I look at it as turning cash. Let me think of a good way to explain this. In my mind, I think of, how does my cash flow turn into assets, and then how do those assets turn back into cash? That's the way I think through everything, because I take cash flow, I invest into assets, the assets come back into cash as additional cash flow, which is free. But like, I didn't have to work for that cash flow.
Yeah, my view in the same principle is, I have this war chest or this golden egg, which is the cash, and it goes out. How do I get the war chest to grow, even though I put money out, right? So if I put out 100 grand, I know every year I'm going to get back 8 to 10,000 on that, depending where I put it. Okay, great. I know in 10 years I'm going to get my 100 grand back. Well, in that same time frame, if I could put that money back out, well, now I'm compounding my interest rate because now that $10,000 in dividends goes into a new deal. And then that goes into a new deal. And now it's stacking up. And my war chest or my golden egg is growing. I was telling you the other day is I think early on in my investing career, it's right when Tony Robbins released The Mastery of Money. And the one thing that stuck with me was about this war chest and how to get the war chest to grow. And once your war chest is filled up, you can retire, you can go do what you want, get the passive income coming in. Because that's it. I think people thinking about this, there's a disconnect between having a business and generating cash and what it takes to do versus investing in businesses or real estate or syndications or whatever it is. Take the word real estate out. It's businesses, syndications, passive investing to get passive income to completely have a lifestyle business. The gentleman, our friend that you were talking about, he passively invests side by side. But you know what happened to him is he was passively investing, receiving dividends, but now he has the problem. He's got so many dividends coming in. He now has to take an active role to redeploying his capital.
Yeah.
So it continues to grow for him and for his family and for generational wealth beyond that. So these are all, just when you think everyone has it figured out and it's the easiest business in the world, every business takes a lot of work. There is, whether you're passively investing and you're managing who you're investing in, or you're actively investing and you have property managers in place, but then you're managing the manager. Nothing is simple. Nothing is easy. Everybody's going to have headaches. It's all how you tolerate it and how you make your next shot, how you make your next move.
Yeah. All right. For this Thirsty Thursday episode that we're doing, let's sum it up in a sec because I got to roll. But
Okay.
this impromptu one, another challenge that I think's important. And listen, I'm not claiming, and Ian's not claiming that we're these crazy financial gurus. Most of the topics that we talk about are not necessarily like personal finance stuff, even though we do like talking about it. And this is stuff that Ian and I talk about every day. Between the two of us and our business partners, because it's fun, and it's fun to have an accountability partner to do this. And it's also fun to have games. But like when everyone's like, well, why don't you just go buy this? Or why don't you go do this? And like, that's the mindset that a lot of people have. Like, oh, you got the money, you can afford it. Like, play a game with yourself that you bucket different purchases, but not based on active income, based on passive income, right? Because when you get passive income, like, that's not free money. That's not maybe the best term for it, but it's money that you're getting from, passively investing. So it's like, hey, let's say you want whatever, a second car, and it costs $30,000. Well, figure out how you're going to get that $30,000. You don't necessarily need to, do that through active, but invest in something and say, okay, well, I have this one rental property and whatever, I get $500 a month on it. And in a certain amount of months, I'm going to bucket all that money and I'm going to buy this rental car, or not rental car. I'm going to buy this second car. Maybe not the best investment and maybe not the best use of it, but just think about it. Like, that's the game. Like, anything you want, like we have a capital investor. This is a different person that I'm friends with. And like, he won't buy anything with, like, he owns active businesses and he works, but he also has a lot of passive income, and he buckets everything on passive income. He doesn't spend his active income. And that's just a game. You can do it either way. Right. But like, he's like, hey, I want this particular investment. He'd be like, oh, this is the rental house for the Ferrari rental house. I'm kind of making that up, but like something like that. And like, everything's bucketed that way. Like, that's who paid for this. Like, I didn't have to work hard to pay for that. So like, I like to play that game to bucket different things, based on an investment, but also to bring a lot of this together, to be true to yourself and who you are. Like, figure out what part of your life you're in. Like, I'm in the growth phase. Ian's in a growth phase, right? Like, we're in positions, and I think a lot of people are in positions that they what's a good word to say it? High earning potential in our current situations, right? We have businesses that are built out that, I mean, I've spent the last 16 years on mine and spent the last 10 years on his. Like, we've worked really, really hard and come a long way to be where we're at now. I don't want to just let it kind of fall by the wayside. Like, it's got a lot of potential to grow, and I'm going to spend time on growing that. It's got a lot of potential. And, think about the snowball term or compound interest. Like, let's say you start with, $10,000 and, you want to double that, right? Okay, we make $20,000. Hey, it's a lot of money, but let's say you have $1 million and you want to double it. Now you have $2 million, right? It's the same thing. Doubling is doubling. If you start with $1 or $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million, the reason why so many wealthy people continue to get so wealthy, like almost unattainable and touchable, is because, they're doing the same amount of work to double $10 million that we're all doing, doubling $100,000, right?
Correct.
And that's the power of compound interest. And that's the power of compounding anything. And that's kind of where Ian and I's heads are with stuff. It's like, hey, we have this to, when we started, we had, this much to work with. Now we have this much to work with. Well, someone who's just starting out, they're going to be working really, really hard over the next few years to get to here, right? We're already here. We're going to be working really, really hard too, but we're going to get to here. And so many people get up to here, and then I feel like they kind of just, hey, I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm going to try to go in this direction. I'm going to try to do this. And then every part of the whole concept just kind of decreases. And, and maybe I should do this now. And then they got to work hard again to do it. I don't know. It's a little random.
Yeah, business is hard, right? And people get to a certain size and scale. And they're like, oh, well, it'd just be easier if I did this and hit the reset button and blow it up, because they're scared of the hard work that it takes to get to the next level. And I'm not saying I want some 50-person company or 100-person company, but in the end, it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to make these deals get done. And furthermore, we've spent all this time getting this far. Why wouldn't you look at trying to continue to grow? And you know what? We have employees who count on us, right? Like, we're not just changing our lives, we're changing our employees' lives, our investors' lives, the sellers' lives, everybody that's involved in the transactions. It is changing everyone's family tree in the generations below them, right? By doing the deals that we want to do and continuing to grow. So, I mean, with that being said, look, business is hard.
That's a good point. Real quick, and then you can finish up. That's a good point. Like, why not just put in the extra effort now to go from here to there? Because even if you don't need that money, or somebody give it away, do whatever you want to do with it. Like, it doesn't matter. But like, you've already created the machine, and like this isn't a naysayer conversation of like, oh, well, you already worked so hard, enjoy it. Like, you still can do that. You can do it all. This isn't this isn't one or the other.
Right. Well, I mean, we think about, a lot of people know our business size, but we still find time to enjoy ourselves between golfing, boating, swimming, traveling, learning how to fly airplanes, just hanging out with the boys, doing family time, whatever it is. We still find time to do all this. Don't just turn off social media. It's all bullshit. They rent the cars, they rent the planes. It's all one big effing lie that they're trying to sell you stuff, and just put in the hard work. And with that being said, running a podcast is really goddamn hard. So I'm going to use this as a segue. So if you guys got any value out of this, please like it, share it. It's the best thing you can do. Share it with your friends. Spark up the conversation with someone else that's going through something similar to you. You might know someone that has a bigger business than you. Ask them these questions. I bet you'll find out how eerily similar it is that your small business is compared to their big business, and the same problems, just at different scales. So the best compliment you could give us is like or share it. And we really appreciate you guys.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week on the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Number one.
We got a guest next week. Yeah.
Do we? Yes, we do.
We do.
Looking forward to it. See you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.